Hello, I am seriously excited today because this project I've been working on to help teachers from middle school up to college professors uh, get on board with some really cool results with their students um, is starting to come to fruition. So, what is it all about? CS1 IDE is the name of the project. It's intended to, like I say, reach the whole way down to middle school, the whole way up to college, graduate, and even postgraduate because there's so much involved. And what it is basically a system where students will be empowered by their teachers. Their teachers will create some lessons, and the students will be empowered to build things code related, or it could be artistic and asset related, that's going to ultimately affect and support the building of a 3D multiplayer uh, game that's also VR compatible. They can play it on Oculus Quest, for example, or they can play it as a regular 3D game. Um, and the students don't have to go really broad scope. The teachers don't have to go really broad scope. They can just focus on what they want to, elements of basic computer science and programming, to computational algorithms. They could be focusing on aspects of art, design. So it's really exciting. This is definitely not done at all. We're literally at the very beginnings of what is, I would say, the start to a workable system. So let me just kind of walk you through this so you can see how this could pan out. So I'm hosting this on Glitch, and it's CS1 IDE is the name of the project. And if you go down to the first step section here in the README, it says remix this IDE. Go ahead and just remix the IDE project. So I'll do that. Start off with remixing the IDE project. So that's the first thing I did. I just followed what it said. Okay, so it remixed the actual IDE project. It gave it a different name. I could just rename that if I wanted to right now. I'm just going to just follow the rest of what it says. It says remix the CS1 game engine base project. So I'll click on that. I'll mix that. I have to go back to the instructions over here. And it says after I remix the CS1 game engine base project, it says to add an admin key in the .env. So I will go over here and I will search. This is the big search, the .env, and add an admin key. And it tells me it has to be in quotes. So I'm just going to go temporarily just put 1, 2, 3, 4. I will delete this. Obviously, that's not secure, but I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. And so I've added the admin key. Customize the name of the base project. So let me go over here. Here's this base project. Let me customize the name. Let me say, 207 example. Okay, so 207 example is the name of the project. The admin key is 1, 2, 3, 4. It says log into the CS1 IDE. So I'm going to log into my remix here of the IDE. And so I'm going to go over here and log in. Click on open in a new window. And I called that project 207 example. And I gave it the admin key 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit enter. And I guess I'll save that. And look what I got. Okay, so I got over here just a basic setup where here's the idea now. These lessons aren't, these example lessons aren't even lessons yet. I'm not even to that point. Just want to make my the overall idea clear what's going on here. So what you will be able to do now that this is kind of up and running, let me go back to the README here for the IDE. Then it says create your own lesson content and update the file right here. So create your own lesson content. What does that mean? So I guess it's inferred over here. So in the file they're referring to right here, I'll go into that file. And we can see that there's this basic configuration file, and it's kind of laid out. I don't have to go into the details of it, but each lesson has a name. It has a URL to some other website that you could just make a Google page or publish a Google document, or you can make your own whatever elaborate page. I'll help people who need help with that later on. And then here's just an embeddable Google form quiz. This is a quiz that's written as a Google form. And then this right here is the part of the source code in the game that's going to be addressed or edited, if you will, and updated in the process of doing the lesson. So this is a lesson about the client configuration file. So it's going to be loading the remote file found right here. This is the file path for it. And it's going to be enabling editing of that and saving and so forth. Here's the second lesson, components. Here's the lesson URL. Currently, these aren't any complete lessons or anything. I'm just putting some placeholders in there right now. Here's the quiz URL. It's going to a Google Forms quiz. And then here's the file path and the source code. It's going to be pulled into the IDE and then remotely edited, and then you can build the project out as well, because it does require building. So this is where the customization, the teachers just can set up the basic sequence of lessons. Now I will design my own lessons for teachers and districts that want that level of assistance, and that's where I will kind of reach out to people, interested parties. And here we have 2 lessons that in the future will be true example lessons, but this is the idea. So if we go over here into the IDE, we can see that this select menu, this drop-down menu, is populated based upon that file. And I can already go into that game by clicking Launch Game. It will go over and launch that game. If you remember, so admin is the default login name, and then if you remember, I put 1, 2, 3, 4 for the admin key. If I log in, and it just works. The demo just works right off the bat. So you can see we have all this stuff going on, and it's already an application that can be installed on mobile phones. It can run on Oculus Quests. It's all kind of, interactivity there. Really cool shaders here and all kind of stuff. They can, upgrade the avatar. There's all kind of stuff going on. So I don't want to put the focus here on the engine at this point, but the IDE. So over here, students reading through a lesson. Again, this is not a lesson. And then they can click on here and go to the quiz. And teachers, professors can go check the formative assessments of their students in the Google Forms feedback that they get for the students taking the quizzes and what have you. Students can go back and forth between the quiz and the lesson, if you will, to get the information that they need supporting their answers that they're going to put over here. And then they can build out the code. They can edit the code according to the lesson as well. They can save the code. It will save remotely to the actual game project. And then they can build the application based on their changed source code. And then they can relaunch the application. And that's the basic idea. You can switch lessons. Go to the quiz for that lesson and so forth. Same type of thing. If the build fails or something, something goes wrong or is successful, you'll see that log out here in this log section. This is totally working. Not much to it yet, but I've been through an entire year working with high school students with this particular game engine. They love it. Maintaining their focus and guiding them through has been a challenge. But this, and I've been working with some students and getting their feedback, this is going to help immeasurably. And, college professors, if you're teaching linear algebra and, teaching transform matrices or whatever, there's a place in this for you, because if you go to the actual game engine, so when it gets into the actual game engine, I guess I can point that out. There's a whole interface that I have with shaders that were imported from ShaderFrog, and I can make other interfaces as well. I actually have another one in here. But if you look over here, let me do what's the basic shader? All these are all, but anyway, I can go to one of these shaders, and we can see the shader code isn't pretty right here, but this shader code right here, and where you typically edit this would be in the shader code, would typically be in ShaderFrog itself, which is a different site. But I can make it so that it can load up and change the shader code, in fact. But yeah, so if you wanted to do some more complex types of programming, like shader language, where you have strong typing and all the graphics, math that's underlying that, then oh yeah, we're ready to go that way. If I don't have any interest in that community, then fine, I'm going to put my interest where it's going to support people. So it could be middle school teachers that are looking for just maybe playing around with students building a game and making their own assets, their own little art for it. So if you go to we already have in the assets over here, we already have a bunch of assets. Students can literally just make 2D or 3D assets. I have some great tutorials using Magic of Voxel to make 3D assets, as well as other tutorials for making 2D assets. So the range of possible projects is great, from middle school art, math, if they wanted to make something for a social studies class, like the actual Egyptian, ancient Cairo or something, or if they wanted to make a particular town, if they're studying Spanish or something, they wanted to make an idyllic town that was a representative of a certain culture, they can make that, the art assets for it, and build in some of the language that would enhance a foreign language class. I mean, it doesn't have to be math, science, computer science. I'm thinking big here, I'm thinking broad. I will build out lessons where literally a teacher doesn't have to have any familiarity with computer science at all. And I will undertake building out the lessons for what their needs are associated with their learning targets and so forth. I'll build out the lessons, and they can just set their students at it, and the students will be able to get wonderful results that are, as you've seen, it's a real legit game. It's not a make-believe game here. So if I go admin 1, 2, 3, 4, this is real multiplayer game. I've had 20 people at a time. That's the most I've ever had, from like 5 different countries at once connected.
All visitors are required to sign in at the welcome desk.
So it is really something else. It's still early in the works, but for the first time, I feel I can, proudly say, if a middle school teacher approaches me, if a high school teacher approaches me, if a college professor approaches me with a particular idea of how they would like to implement this, we can make the scope as narrow or broad as they would like, and I will work with them. If you want to do it independently, the projects are all open source, and if you want to get out there and just start digging into the code and submitting some pull requests, you can do that. Post issues on GitHub, whatever can help you, and just reach out to me on whatever forum or platform and let me know what you think. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.